Welcome to Session 7. In Session 7, we'll be looking at the key features of the Indian Constitution. While reading these, we have to keep in mind the above mentioned concerns of diversity of religious, linguistic, caste, diverse or diversified features in our Indian society, unity in diversity, socio-economic reforms and representation that the authors of this document were grappling with. So before we get into the details of the key features of the Indian Constitution, we all need to remember in our minds, my dear students, that the concerns are of diversity, unity, how to bring unity in this diverse nature of society, the socio-economic reforms and the representations that the authors of this document were grappling with. To understand the ways in which they try to balance these concerns with their commitment to transforming independent India into a strong democratic society, first let us look at the feature of federalism. Federalism refers to the existence of more than one level of government in our country. In India, we have government at the state level and at the central level. We also have Panchayati Raj is the third tier of government, and you have read about this in your class 6. We looked at the functioning of the state government in your class 7, and this year we will read more about the central government and its organization. The vast number of communities in India meant that a system of government needed to be revised and devised that did not involve only one person sitting in the capital city of New Delhi and making decisions for everyone. So people, after going through the colonial rule, decided that we all need to have our say in any decision that is being taken by the government. Let us say it common people, let us say it the political members of the Congress party or the constituent assembly. So it has been decided that the vast number of communities in India wanted a system of government that needs to be devised that did not involve only one person, the main key person, the viceroy or the king or the queen of Britain will decide by sitting in the capital city, but it makes every member of the society part of the decision making process. That's what they intended in the first place. That's why they brought federalism. Instead, it was important to have another level of government in the state so that the decisions could be made for that particular area. For somebody who operates the government from the capital city of the state or from the central region, it is very difficult to understand what is the local problem when it comes to local concerns. So, people also intended to have a local governance system. Each state in India enjoys autonomy in exercising powers on certain issues. The subjects of national concern require that all the states follow the laws of the central government, including the subjects like defense, financial. These are the national interest subjects. So all the states are bound to follow the laws which are made by the central government. The Constitution contains list that details the issue that tier of government can make laws on. In addition, the Constitution also specifies whether or where each tier of government can get the money from the government as well as for the work that it does. So, the central government, state governments and the local bodies are established as per the spirit of the Constitution and the requirements of the society to address the concerns. The Constitution also specifies how and where to get the money from for the work it has to do. Under the Constitution, it is clearly mentioned the areas and the subjects which are dealt by central government, state government and the local bodies. Under federalism, the states are not merely agents of the federal government, but they draw their authority from the Constitution as well. So, they are not the agents of central government. They are also having some constitutional existence from the Constitution itself, and all persons in the government are governed by the same set of laws and policies made by each of these levels of government. So, every individual is bound to follow the rules made by the central government on national interest, state government on the state interest, as well as the local government on the local area interest or requirement. Parliamentary form of government is the second important feature of our Indian Constitution. The parliamentary form of government has been established in our country to have a representative form of government. The different tiers of government that you just read about that consist of representatives who are elected by the people. Your Class VII book began with the story of Kanta, who was standing in line to vote during an election. The Constitution of India guarantees universal adult suffrage for all the citizens. When they were making the Constitution, the members of the Constituent Assembly felt that the freedom struggle had prepared the masses for universal adult suffrage, which means every individual, irrespective of the caste, color, creed, region, religion, will get right to vote after a certain age, which is earlier it was 21, later it was reduced to 18 years. That is called universal adult suffrage. That this would help to encourage democratic mindset among the people and also break the clutches of traditional caste, class and gender hierarchy. This means that the people of India have a direct role in electing their representatives. Also, every citizen of the country, irrespective of his or her social background, can also contest in elections. There is also a provision for all the Indians, irrespective of their caste, color, creed, region, religion, male or female, can contest in the elections for any of the bodies. In certain areas like the local bodies or in the state assembly or for the parliament, certain seats are reserved for women, certain seats are reserved for SC, ST and backward classes to give representation for them. These steps are made by the makers of the Constitution to uplift certain categories of people who are deprived of their equal rights during the colonial period or a long period of time. These representatives all at every level are accountable to people. Through elections, people decide the fate of the leaders. You will read more about why representation is crucial in democratic functioning in Unit 2 of the same book, which will continue further. That is the key feature of parliamentary form of government and why the makers of the Constitution intended to have a parliamentary form of government. Next, the separation of powers. When we have different levels of government, we need to have a clarity on which areas will be governed by whom. According to the Constitution, the third aspect or the key feature is separation of powers. There are three organs of government. Those are legislature, executive, and judiciary. The legislature refers to our elected representatives. The people choose their representatives, and these people come under the important organ of the government, that is legislature. The executive is a smaller group of people who are responsible for implementing the laws and running the government. The leaders of the legislature or the majority party leaders in the house will be the executive members, and they form the government and be like ministers. And the third important organ is judiciary, of which we will read more in Unit 3 of this book. Refers to the system of courts in this country. In order to prevent the misuse of power by any one branch of government, the Constitution says that each of these organs should exercise different powers. So the Constitution has made its point very clear that no organ of the government should try to misuse the powers of one branch by another branch. There is a clear division of work for each branch. Legislature deals with law-making process, executive deals with law implementation process, and judiciary deals with balance between the legislature and executive, and no conflict that are been arising between the legislature, executive, and public. So judiciary always tries to balance and tries to resolve the conflicts that these segments have, as well as the common criminal and civil disputes what people have. So through this, each organ acts as a check on the other organs of the government, and this ensures the balance of power between all the three organs of the government. That is about the separation of powers. The word state is often used in this chapter. This does not refer to state government. My dear students, please understand here clearly that in civics, when we use the word state, it does not refer only to state government until and unless it is specifically used. Like for example, Telangana state government. There it clearly means Telangana state government only. But sometimes we use the word state that we are trying to distinguish it from government. Government is responsible for administering and enforcing the laws. Government's main duty is to look after the making of the law and enforcing the laws. The government can change with elections. Yes, whenever election comes, there is a clear possibility in democracy that there can be a change of election. With the elections, there can be a change of government which is ruling. The party which is in power might lose, and the party which is in the opposition can become the ruling party. So, the state, on the other hand, refers to political institutions that represent a sovereign people who occupy a definite territory. So, in simple words, we can say state not only represents state government, it can also represent a country. So, we can thus speak of Indian state, Nepali state, that is, etc. That is, the Indian state has a democratic form of government. The government is one part of the state. The state refers to more than just the government and cannot be used interchangeably with it. So we need to understand very carefully. In the second point here is that in the parliamentary form of government, we learned that we have different levels of government. So state government does not apply only to states. It can also be applied to a nation, secular state. The particular feature to India can also be attributed to state. That is the meaning of this part and this point. Now moving on to fundamental rights. The fundamental rights section has often been referred as the concise of the Indian Constitution. The colonial rule had created a certain suspicion of states in the minds of the nationalists, and they wanted to ensure that a set of written rights would guard against the misuse of state power in independent India. So it's very clear that when we say fundamental rights, fundamental means basic rights. We need these basic rights. Due to the long drawn experience of colonial rule, which created a kind of uncertainty and suspicion, doubts in the minds of the people, they wanted to have a written rights, a written document which speaks about the rights of the individuals, where the government cannot say no to that particular rights. That's why they have called them as fundamental rights. And so it becomes the duty of the government, whoever is in power, to protect citizens against the arbitrary and absolute exercise of power by the states. The Constitution thus guarantees the rights of individuals against the state as well as against other individuals. So no individual can deny or cross the limit of any other individual's right. Not only an individual, but even the state has to safeguard the rights of the individual. Moreover, the various minority communities also expressed the need for the Constitution to include rights that would protect their group. So even minority communities also raise their concerns and express their need to include certain rights for them also, or to protect them, their group, in the Constitution. The Constitution therefore guarantees the rights of the minorities against the majority. As we discussed in the case study of the classroom, where the boys are in majority, so they wanted to play cricket, but the girls want to play basketball, but they are in minority. So whenever teacher takes the consensus, it goes by the majority. The girls are forced to give up their game. But here, the Constitution guaranteed rights of the minorities against the majority. As Dr. Ambedkar has said about these fundamental rights, their object is twofold. The first objective is every citizen must be in a position to claim those rights, and secondly, he also stressed that these rights must be binding upon every authority that has got the power to make laws. So firstly, Ambedkar pointed out clearly that the objectives of fundamental rights are twofold, means two aspects. First aspect is every citizen must be in a position to claim those rights. So every citizen must know and be aware of what are his rights. Secondly, the rights must be binding upon every authority that has got the power to make laws. So no government has to make laws which are arbitrary to the citizens' rights. In addition to fundamental rights, the Constitution also has a section called Directive Principles of State Policy. So as per the Directive Principles of State Policy, the Constitution has specified that people have to be taken care by the government. This section was designed by the members of the Constituent Assembly to ensure greater social and economic reform, and to serve as a guide to the independent Indian state to institute laws and policies that will help to reduce the poverty of the masses. So Indian government has to look at the directive principles of state policy as an advisory given by the members of the Constituent Assembly to make policies in such a way that they will ensure greater social and economic reforms, and which will also make sure that these policies what are made in the social and the economic field will definitely reduce the poverty of the masses. The fifth key feature what we are going to discuss is secular state. A secular state is a state in which there would not be any official religion. Secularism means a state is one in which the state does not officially promote any one religion as a state religion. You know that there are ways in which a country's history often determines the kind of constitution that a country adopts for itself. As you can see the situation there, India and Pakistan are divided only on the basis of religion. So the constitution makers have an idea and the pain of what the people are going through because of this religious division, communal riots. The constitution plays a crucial role in laying out the ideal that we would like all citizens of the country to adhere to, including the representatives that we elect to rule us. Just like in the game of football, a change of constitutive rules will affect the game. The Indian Constitution has been amended over the years to reflect new concerns of the polity. Often, a major change in the Constitution means a change in the fundamental nature of the country. We saw this in the case of Nepal, how it needed to adapt a new constitution after it became a democratic country. The different features of Indian Constitution outlined above, what we discussed till now, involved complicated ideas that are often not easy to grasp. Don't worry too much about this for this moment. In the rest of the book, as well as in the higher classes, you will read more about these different features of the Indian Constitution and understand them more substantively what they mean. With this, we come to the end of this session, where all the key features of the Constitution are discussed in detail. Hope all of you understood them. What is the meaning of it? What are the key features? This will definitely be an essay question in your examination. So if you want, you can pause the video and listen to the points once again and then make your own running notes so that it will be helpful for you while writing the examination. Or you can just draw the Indian constitutional features and draw a mind map with 5 different colors, putting the 5 different features and write one point around that 5 points so that you can have easily 8 points in your hand to score full marks in your examination. That's all we have in this session. Stay tuned. We'll catch you in the next chapter. Stay safe and stay at home. Thank you.